Hello guys, this is Modest Major here, bringing you some commentary over some H2A multiplayer footage. This is actually multi-flag CTF, which is an incredibly hectic game type. And I'm sorry to all you guys who still aren't getting in games ever. I know some people who have barely even touched matchmaking. I probably get in a game about once every half an hour to an hour. It depends on how lucky I am. I don't really have the patience to search that much, so I probably could have gotten in a lot more. But just watching the loading screen can get quite frustrating. But this was one of the matchmaking games I managed to get in, and it was actually incredibly enjoyable. Warlord is one of these maps that I feel like I'm picking up the fastest. I was so intrigued when they actually added it into the matchmaking roster. Warlock was kind of this like wild card map, which I didn't quite know for sure whether or not it would make it into the matchmaking. It's very fast paced. It's quite different from what you've seen in a bunch of multiplayer titles as of recently, and the fact that it's so arena based, it's so close quarters. You know, if you're worse than the enemy team, there's just no escaping it on this map. There's no hanging back and, you know, rallying up with your team and hiding behind your team and using positioning to get out of every single situation. No, like, if you're not good enough, you are going to get absolutely abominized, and you just have to be ready for that. But regardless, I've actually been enjoying my time with this map. It's probably my favorite in the lineup so far. And I can give you guys just a few suggestions before you head into it. I'm by no means an expert when it comes to Halo 2 Anniversary matchmaking, but I can probably give you a slightly higher above average interpretation of how you should approach this in matchmaking. Now, you'll see here I'm running the flag into teleporter, and I absolutely get jumped on. There's 3 people on the map already. For some reason, this is 5v5. It's meant to be 4v4. Someone on my team was very much complaining about that the entire game. It's kind of hard to concentrate because this guy was like, "Why on earth is it 5v5? It makes no sense. This is trash." And I was like, dude, like, you just need to calm down, man. Like, we're not going to win if you're going that insane. Luckily, we do actually manage to win, but it's a very hard-fought game. One of the things I feel like secures me the win in this game in particular is in multi-flag CTF. You're probably aware, but if you're not, here's a refresher course. If you pick up the flag and then drop it, which is called flag juggling, it will actually let the enemy team be aware of your position. An emblem will come up and it will say, you know, flag 15 seconds till respawn. But if you hold it in your flag, you're actually invisible to the enemy team. Now, Warlord is such a close quarters map, it's so hectic, it's so fast paced, that I started to realize, you know, one flag cap into this game, that if I just hold on to the flag and I don't flag juggle it, there's not that much distance to cover, plus you can skip or bypass a bunch of the actual mileage that you need to travel by going through the teleporter. So what I would do is I'd hold on to the flag and I'd take it through the teleporter, and I actually managed to win us a game that we should not have won. Our team all went horrifically negative, apart from me. The enemy team was outplaying us pretty much on every front. I managed to go mildly positive, but what really won me is this flag technique. And I definitely advise you guys pick it up, especially on Warlord. You know, if you compare it to a map like Sanctuary, that's going to be an entirely different concept altogether, because Sanctuary, there's a lot of distance to cover, and without sprint, it can be very difficult. And if you flag juggle it fast enough, you can actually get away from the enemy team. Your team should set up, you know, back at your own base, and you can kind of set a trap for the enemy team, even if they do start chasing the flag, because their first instinct will be to chase the flag carrier, and they'll probably put themselves in a bad position as a result. Whereas Warlord's a little bit different, you know, with the teleporters, with the added stealth, and what will also enhance this stealth is the camo. The camo is absolutely insane in H2A, especially if there's no radar. If there's no radar, you know, Invis has gone back to being properly invisible. You know, in Halo 4, depending on the map, it kind of meant that you were just a little bit blurry. You know, it was fairly easy to see, I think, and I think the name tag could kind of pop above you, plus the auto aim when aiming at an invisible person was still the same, whereas in this game, it's massively changed. So if an invis guy is running up to you, you know, you can still be in an extremely vulnerable position even if they're right in front of you, because you might not notice. The auto-aim won't suddenly shift to align with that guy, and, you know, it's just so invisible. They blend in with their surroundings incredibly. So invis for flag pulls and for just taking down the enemy team is essential. It obviously spawns top middle, and, you know, you have to kind of walk into it. It's really strange. It's kind of hard to get used to. You put yourself in a very vulnerable position because, A, you have to go top mid, which kind of everyone has a view on at all times. You know, regardless of where you spawn, you probably have a good view on top middle. So you have to use the beams to your advantage, plus you have to, you know, get camo and get the heck out of there. The second you've got camo, chances are someone's seen you, especially if you're playing an above average team in matchmaking. So you have to be very wary of that. Plus, what you also extremely have to be wary of is the shotguns on this map. The shotguns are ludicrous. They carry an insanely high ammo count, and they spawn on green and gold jump up, which is essentially the little platform, the little raised platform. There's one raised platform, and then there's a larger platform in front of the flag spawn. So you go to that large platform, and then you go to the base of it, and there's a little platform that jumps up. There's a shotgun on each of them. They have an insanely high clip. They've buffed the damage in this game. If you combine shotgun with camo, you are going to be tearing faces, and it's essential, especially in an objective game type, that you control camo and you control the map to some extent. The nades in this game are extremely vital also. Bear in mind that you can carry 4 frags, 4 plasmas, etc. And they spawn in front of the flag, in the gutter in front of the flag. And you want to be circulating there, you want to be picking them up, and you want to be also extremely wary of the grenades that the enemy team are throwing, because if you're standing directly above a frag grenade, you could instantly die, and it's insane. But that's pretty much what I've gathered from H2A, from Warlock in particular. I hope those tips were somewhat helpful to you in any way, shape, or form, but I want to spend the next half of the video talking about Halo 5 Guardians. So this is kind of like a double video. I haven't uploaded too many videos in a long while, and I just wanted to keep you guys occupied with content, especially as you're not probably getting in games right now and you got nothing better to do. Or you can leave this on in the background whilst you're searching for games. That's what I've been doing. Any YouTube video that's gone up, I've just treated it as a podcast whilst I'm watching this lobby full of searching screens. But I actually wanted to spend the second half of this video talking about Halo 5 Guardians. Halo 5 Guardians is something that's been incredibly interesting to me to see the community's reaction to. I think overall, especially from a pro player's perspective, I've been really satisfied and pleasantly surprised by the community's reaction to this, because I was anticipating people to completely trash on Halo 5 Guardians once the release was unveiled. And, you know, players like Gandhi in the past and Lethal is a stronger example. You know, they've obviously not been a very big fan of mechanics like sprint and mechanics like the thruster packs. They've wanted a more base Halo experience in the form of a Halo 2 classic, sort of like a Halo 2 Classic remastered with insanely better graphics and with a couple of bells and whistles in terms of customization and Forge and BTB options. But they've wanted the 4v4 arena multiplayer to pretty much remain the same, which I totally get, because it's that matter of if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and H2A has proved without a shadow of a doubt that it is most certainly not broken. It's extremely exhilarating and enjoyable. At the same time, you have to understand that, you know, from a marketing experience, from a marketing perspective, they were always going to reveal Halo 5 Guardians in this respect. The FPS market, especially on console, has grown far more predominantly casual. There's no getting around that, and they have to have, you know, certain additions and certain enhancements to, you know, advertise it to them, to market to them. Halo 2 Classic is great, but at the end of the day, a lot of people would be getting absolutely murdered in that sort of game, and a lot of people would be very put off by its base, its old school mechanics, its unforgiving, its punishing, etc. And I kind of always knew that Guardians was going to be heading in this direction, for better or for worse. And at the end of the day, if Halo 5 Guardians doesn't sell, if it doesn't do well, you know, that could mean the death of Halo altogether, in my opinion. You know, we've had our chances with Halo Reach, and we've had our chances with Halo 4. I'm fairly amazed that we got a third chance. You know, Halo Reach, the populations gradually declined. It did far worse than Halo 3 in the long term. And then, you know, after that was Halo 4, and Halo 4 obviously did colossally worse than any of the previous Halo titles. It's kind of a miracle that we get to try again with H2A and get to try again with Halo 5 Guardians. And I'm not going to lie, I still think the game has a huge chance of being competitive, especially if you guys have heard about the ranking systems and the fact that they're trying to set up 7 divisions. And the top division will basically classify you as a pro, and something like the 5th division will class you as a semi-pro, and it will have, you know, these initial qualifying rounds, sort of similar to League of Legends and StarCraft, where you qualify for your leagues, you qualify for your division, and it's basically a really interesting way of you know, categorizing the game and giving you longevity. A lot of the reasons my friends didn't enjoy Halo 4, now that they've come back for H2A and they're like back online, a bunch of my old school friends, they've been saying, you know, they didn't actually hate Halo 4. They didn't hate the engine. They actually enjoyed the polish of the game, and they could have stayed on, but the main thing that scared them away was that there was no ranks, there was no longevity, there was no incentive to push forward. For a lot of people, the main reason they played Halo 3 was to grind for ranks, to keep on pushing forward, to put together a team, and to feel like they were on top of the world. And, you know, that was definitely a big draw for me in Halo 3, and it was definitely a big disappointment when they got rid of it in Halo Reach. So, yeah, I think we could see a bunch of players returning just on the basis of that ranking system alone. Then we go into the actual matchmaking, and for me, things like Thruster Pack, they were kind of a movement option from my personal perspective, and I quite like movement options. You know, I obviously don't want them to go overboard, because it just doesn't work within the meta of the Halo games. But at the same time, and it drastically shifts it. I understand that. But the thruster packs, if used effectively, they could kind of become like a fighting mechanic where you have an option to mix up your movement, instead of it being used, you know, primarily for escaping. It kind of depends, because we have to get our hands on it. We've only seen very brief gameplay on it, and the gameplays that I've seen, people haven't really been abusing the thruster pack, so I haven't been able to get, you know, a good enough impression of how it works in the matchmaking experience. Then you've got stuff like the ADS. Well, the ADS seems primarily aesthetic, and that's fine. You know, we're going to have to move past that. I was incredibly put off when I first saw it, because I was going kind of crazy on Twitter. I had this, you know, reactionary first impressions to it of like, oh no, why are we moving towards COD? What possible reason do we have to move towards COD? You know, I've been always of the mindset that we're never going to beat COD by putting out a COD successor. We're going to beat COD by putting out something that's completely different to it, that works in its own way, that has its own meta. So the more it goes in the COD direction, the less happy I'll be. Whereas the ADS is, you know, purely an aesthetic thing, and it doesn't seem like it's actually going to have any effect as far as the developers are concerned, and as far as the people who have tested the game. You know, the aim when you're not zoomed in is exactly the same. There's no flinch, there's descope, etc. So it just functions exactly like a BR should. So that's fine by my impressions. The two things I am worried are is the ground pound. I just think the ground pound is a mildly moronic, you know, game mechanic to put into the game. That's where Halo starts to stray away from Halo. It's a super ability. It's essentially like a Destiny mechanic, and obviously I have to try it for myself, but it's definitely the one I'm most skeptical of, because especially if it's an instant kill ability, it reminds me of something like a bolt shot, or something that you can carry in your pocket that will pull off that insta kill, and I don't very much like it. You know, from what I've heard from Unishek's write-up on Team Beyond, he seemed to imply that it put you in a very vulnerable position, and it was actually quite underpowered. But, you know, even if it's getting those lucky kills every so often, where you run around a corner and you're instantly killed, for me that could completely detract from the overall meta. And the next thing is the power of the SMGs. You know, if descoping is in this game, and an SMG instantly descopes you, if the SMG has a high kill time, on top of all of that, it could be really detrimental to the overall experience. It could feel like even if I'm, you know, doing a really good job of pulling off this 4-shot BR kill, this SMG guy can absolutely tear through my shields and I can't outplay them even if I'm playing at my tip top. The SMGs in Halo 2 Anniversary are incredibly weak. They're incredibly nerfed, and I really enjoyed that because I don't think they should give you free kills. Like, I think that you should have to work for the weapons on the map, not stay with your primary SMG, and that's another example of it potentially moving towards more COD gameplay mechanics, and I don't want the game to do that. Like, the idea of every primary that you start out with could potentially destroy people. That's kind of the COD way of doing things, and that would definitely take away and chip away at the Halo meta, but we'll just have to wait and see. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this commentary. It was a bit of a long one. I had a lot to go over, but I just wanted to make worthwhile content because I've been looking at my sub box and it seems like people are very bummed out, and a lot of people don't have many ideas for content because they just want to play, and I get that. But I also want to keep you guys entertained and let you know that Halo isn't, you know, screwed. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this comm. Thanks for watching. Peace out.